What's up, Karma Nation? Welcome back to another edition of the Battle of the Bales Betting Edition podcast. Last week, the Detroit Lions covered the spread against the Los Angeles Chargers, which means I'm 1-1 on the season with two Lions bets. The first week, obviously, they did not cover against the Cardinals. That game ended up in a tie. This week, Detroit actually beat the Chargers despite being underdogs. So hopefully everyone saw on Twitter our update prior to kickoff on Sunday. We didn't have a traditional podcast because of a scheduling conflict, but we're back on track this week. Justin, also 1-1 after the Tennessee Titans failed to cover the spread against the Indianapolis Colts. It's worth noting that the Titans were recently slaughtered by Big Dick Nick's replacement, the Sex Machine Beowulf Flint Minshew II. He's looking like the real deal at quarterback.
Gardner Minshew. His dad's name's Flint.
His middle name is Flint, buddy.
You're gonna don't you refer to him as Gardner?
No, I refer to him as Beowulf, which is what his grandfather wanted to name him.
Yeah, I knew that.
Well,
call him his real nickname, Snake.
Well, did you want to talk about that game at all? I know you guys were all on the Titans. I was on the Jags. It's worth noting that I believe Leonard Fournette had negative rushing yards before he broke his 69-yard carry to put him at like 62 yards on the game or something. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if he had like 14 carries too or something, just negative yards.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Marcus Mariota looks like absolute trash. I'm not calling for Tannehill yet, but I know some people are.
I am. I'm a Tannehill guy. I gave Mariota his chance. 9 sacks is ridiculous. He doesn't throw the ball downfield. There's nothing he can do that Tannehill won't do. So give me Tannehill.
All right, well, fine. I still think Mariota is a better quarterback than Tannehill. I think Mariota's sort of getting screwed by the Titans, so I think I've given him 4 different play callers in the last 4 years. I said that last night on the Bet Karma 2-minute warning with Chris. I don't know. The Titans are just a really bad team. It sucks that Derrick Henry's on that team because he is such a good back. Also, I know that this is a betting podcast, but I couldn't wait because I was just too excited. I got my new Monkey Knife Fight gear, so shout out to Monkey Knife Fight for finally pulling through, and also shout out to Prize Picks for still not pulling through. Soon enough, you'll send me a hat, and I'll shout you out too. Until then. So anyway, this week, if we're done talking about the Titans game, this week we're sticking to the NFC East for some lame reason. I'm not entirely sure why. It just happened that way. I'll let Justin go first, so talk to me about the Giants.
Yeah, I'm on the Giants right now. You can get it at plus 6.5, minus 120. I would bet a large sum of money that will drop to plus 6 soon. Once that does, it'll most likely fall to plus 6, minus 110. I'm still on it, but if you can get this in quick enough, you can get the 6.5 just for a little extra vig, which I'm fine with. When you look at the bets coming in, 61% of tickets on New York, 81% of money. So we just have the sharp money in that favor. The big thing for me is that 6.5 is a pretty big spread in the NFL. Regardless, I know that this year it's kind of crazy, 20-point spreads against the Jets and the Dolphins. It's just nuts. It's hard to lay that on anything, but 6.5 is a relatively large spread. Not anything crazy, but when you look at the game script of this, Bruce Arians is known for like his prolific vertical passing offense, but he runs the ball a ton because he thinks that the run game opens up the pass game. Last week alone, with Tampa Bay beating Carolina, he ran the ball 31 times. They threw the ball 25. I think he's probably realizing that Jameis Winston is not the answer, and that giving their backs the ball a little bit more is probably the smarter route. It does make sense. The Giants will be starting rookie Daniel Jones, the most hated quarterback on draft day ever, even though, I mean, he hadn't done anything at that point. It just was a reach, what most people thought, myself included. So they should rely heavily on Barkley. With that being said, every week they start out with Barkley and they start out fantastic, and then they just started throwing the ball for no reason. Then they fall behind, and it's just a bad game for them. But I think they're just going to really they're going to hand Barkley the ball left and right here. Also with Daniel Jones, if you thought Eli Manning loved dumping the ball down, check out Daniel Jones. It's going to be check down central. And he completed 85.3% of his passes in preseason. A lot of them were check down. Don't get me wrong. He did probably throw the ball downfield more than Eli did early this season. But Jones takes the safe route. A lot of rookies will do that, and it makes sense. So the clock should consistently be running. When that happens, it just makes these bigger spreads harder to beat. And when you check out the Giants' schedule, they have, just from their schedule, they lost to Dallas. They got basically manhandled. But Dallas is a very good team. I projected them to win the East. I don't really like the Philadelphia Eagles that much. I do think Dallas is better. And then they lost to Buffalo, and that team's just filled with potential. So I don't want to say that the Buffalo loss was anything bad. When you look at the Bucs, they were blown out by San Francisco, who then went on to blow out Cincinnati. So I can't tell if San Francisco's for real or they just had two good games. And then they beat a very underwhelming Carolina team by 6. I'm not impressed with the Bucs. I'm also not impressed with the Giants. But when you look at Pro Football Focus, the Giants have the line advantage, both offensively and defensively. When you can control the line of scrimmage with two teams that are likely going to try to run the ball, limit possessions, and stuff like that, the team that has the line advantage usually has the advantage in the game. I don't think the Giants have the advantage in this game. I'm not running to hit their money line. I just think that they can keep it close enough to cover 6.5 or 6, really. And I mean, the major concern here for me is Daniel Jones starting. It's a rookie. It's very volatile to start a rookie early in his career in the NFL. But at the same time, Tampa Bay has no film on them or on him. And they basically only saw what they saw in preseason, which really probably isn't the Daniel Jones that he's going to be throughout his career. So I do think that this could play in a slight advantage because a lot of the times we see rookies come in and just kind of play better than expected. It's just because teams don't have film on them yet. And Tampa Bay is not a good enough defense that I think you can just take them against anyone and they're going to dominate. So I feel like the Giants at 6.5 is just way too wide for me.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes when rookie quarterbacks enter the game, the team seems to play harder too. They provide that youthful spark that maybe Eli didn't have beginning of the season. I know last year he was mistreated. There's probably some weird locker room things going on there. I know Eli was sort of rude about him being benched for Jones, and I don't know. I think Jones comes out, keeps this game competitive. I still like the Bucs. I'll take the Bucs by 3 in this game. I just don't think they cover the spread. So I think you hit the nail on the head there. And we can move on over and talk about another NFC East team, the Washington Redskins. So my pick this week is obviously them. +4 against the Chicago Bears at FedEx Field on Monday night. So if that isn't sexy to you,
I don't know. That's probably the sexiest game of the whole week.
Yeah, I think so. Well, you're going to have to watch it on Monday, or you could watch Raw, which has been starting to heat up, by the way. So, anyway, the Redskins have one of the worst defensive units in the league right now. They're allowing an average of 31.5 points per game. They're second last in the NFL in rushing yards allowed with 336. But the most impressive thing they've done this season, and I use the word impressive liberally, is allow 3 receiving touchdowns of 50-plus yards in only 2 weeks. Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys do have explosive offenses, but Josh Norman and company should be embarrassed over that. They do have some injuries at the cornerback position, the safety position. Luckily for Washington, the Chicago Bears have one of the worst offensive units in the league, so everything just cancels out. I think that's how it works in the NFL. If a bad defense plays a bad offense, neither team scores, and then the Redskins win. But as a team, they're averaging 164 yards per game. That's absolutely horrendous. Mitchell Trubisky has a QBR, quarterback rating, of 28.2 on the season. 28.2. And their rushing attack has been rather subpar despite having a lot of talent at the running back position. Fabian Moreau might return this week. As I mentioned, the Redskins have some injuries at the cornerback position. If he does, he's probably going to play outside a lot. Josh Norman touted him, saying that he can't wait for Moreau to get back, obviously because, Norman's not getting any help covering guys. Norman was actually one of the guys who allowed one of those 50-plus yard touchdowns, but he did so with no safety help when he was definitely supposed to have safety help, so I don't know if I put all the blame on him, though he did definitely get beat. I don't know. That might shore up their secondary a little bit. As far as the betting action's concerned, early in the season is obviously the best time to fade the public, and the Redskins are only getting 42% of the bets right now, which is actually up a lot from earlier in the week. They were getting like sub 30%. They are, however, receiving 67% of the money, which is the highest money bet difference on the week's slate. And as an added bonus for Washington, the Bears are getting a higher percentage of bets, but the line actually moved in favor of the Redskins since opening from -4.5 in favor of the Bears to -4 in favor of the Bears, which indicates a reverse line movement, which is something to definitely keep an eye on when you're trying to find, that slight edge in these games that Vegas is actually very good at predicting. So all in all, I guess I think that the Redskins are going to figure it out more so defensively. I do not think they have a good defense, though I think they're playing a lot worse than they should be playing. They don't have the second worst defense in the league. I'm assuming Miami's the worst. I have no idea, though.
They're the worst.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're second last in rushing yards allowed. I'm assuming Miami's probably last, but they're probably last in passing yards allowed too. But Adrian Peterson should be in for a large workload, and if Jay Gruden can finally control the clock properly, which is a lot to ask for Gruden, I think the Redskins pick up the first one of the season. They're at home. It's a primetime game. This line implies that in Chicago, the Bears would be over 10-point favorites. I don't think that's accurate. I still think this Bears team's good, but with the way they're playing right now, I don't have that much confidence in Nagy. Their defense is still great, but I think this game ends up being something around like 13-7 Washington wins or something like that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I would say Washington wins. I'm not that confident, and I am on Washington +4. One of the big things that, it's kind of odd. Don't use this as your only judge. Like you outlined multiple points as to why Washington's a better play, but add in if Chicago loses that game to the Bears, not to the Bears, to the Broncos, which they did. They legitimately lost that game. They were gifted roughing the passer, which if you didn't see it, that was bad. And if you're a Broncos fan, you have to be pissed. And then they were gifted a timeout at the end of the game that really shouldn't have happened to set up that field goal. What would this line realistically be? I can't imagine the Bears would be 4-point favorites over Washington if they would have lost that game to Denver. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be a very ugly game, and I don't think I'm on the team that I don't think Chicago has the deep threats to gouge Washington like Deshaun Jackson did. So I feel like as the clock's going to keep moving, they're going to play more. They're going to play closer to the line of scrimmage, really, and it's just going to kind of be an ugly, low-scoring game.
Yeah, and one thing worth noting is, dude, did you see in Chicago, first week, Cohen caught, 8 passes or something? He had, 11 targets. Second week, he got 6 touches in the whole game.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what's happening in Chicago. It was really weird because, they had all this preseason hype and whatnot, and obviously, I'm a Green Bay fan, but I thought Green Bay should have really been the favorites to win that division. If you look at my betting article that I put out, I did pick Green Bay to win the division. I believe I picked Chicago to come in second, but they're just not that good. And to go along with the point that I made about Daniel Jones, when teams get film on young quarterbacks, they can plan for them. Well, the same thing can be said for young head coaches. Nagy was basically a rookie head coach last year. No one really knew how to figure out his offense, but they had an entire off season, and relatively clearly, it's not working the same. Don't get me wrong. Trubisky is not very good. I root for the kid. I hope he does well. But Trubisky is not very good. And Nagy doesn't seem to have the adjustments to make to change that about him. He's kind of throwing the same thing at Trubisky over and over again, and he can't do it. So it's just kind of failing at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's worth noting that the Bears, I believe, are still top 10 to win the Super Bowl this year. So Vegas hasn't quit on them yet. Uh, we'll see how that plays out. I think they get better as the season progresses, but in such a tough division, starting the season out slow is never a good idea. The Vikings are good. I said that earlier, 2 weeks ago, that I think Detroit is a 10-6 team, even in that tough division. Obviously, that can't happen. They tied week one, but a 9-6-1 team, perhaps. They might make playoffs. I think Green Bay is the best team in that division. I didn't in the beginning of the year. I was touting the Bears. I was wrong. You were right. Um, and that's really all. Oh, there's one other thing I do want to mention. Tom Brady has never covered a spread higher than 20 points. It's 4 times in his career. I said this last night on the pod. I think this is a great stat. I got it from John Ewig on Twitter. You should be following him. 4 games he's had where the spread has been 20 points or higher. He's never covered, and he's failing to cover by over 11 points per game. So, Jets, Jets this weekend. You got any closing remarks?
No, man. Let's just go out with the Jets.
Let's go out with the Jets. All right, we'll see you guys next week, and hopefully we're both 2-1.